Welcome back to another LinuxGameCast Weekly, the show that covers the latest Linux gaming news, reviews, how-tos, and most importantly, whatever the hell else we come up with. This week, NVIDIA enables the multi-core moon technology. Yes, that's why the installer has been so slow. My glorious voice is now available in a game that was released last year and is now in beta. And Thunder launches on the Steams. Now you can buy all the DLC even easier.
This War of Mine presents a horrific narrative about the horrors and tragedy of war. Brought to you by Mountain Dew. We have to go deeper. Leadwerks finally gets Rift support. Now all they need is developers.
Fucking magnets. How do they work? Team Triple Slash may not be scientists, but they're trying to sell us their new game. Remember Frozen Synapse? It seems that as though 011 is not really keen on the Linuxes. And Rich Geldreich brings us some more pearls of wisdom regarding the Steam machines. Yeah, he's the guy that wrote that blog post about the state of OpenGL.
And Leadwerks is selling a resource pack DLC? Is anyone even using this engine? Dolphin translation, meaning Dolphin devs explain how sound emulation works. We'll talk about the history of Dolphin's audio. Elite Dangerous gets a solid release date. How long will it take after the release for us to pirate a copy?
That's brilliant. And those voices, well, from Canadia, Massa Swag. Mm-hmm. From Space Portugal, Mr. Mateus, and Double Complete Canadian, Sandy Martin. You notice him as such shows as blankly staring into the distance while trying to read things. It's brilliant. And together with Chatwheel and Dynamic, the worst of the worst, the trolliest of trolls, we form a bit of a cocaine Voltron. What's been going on in your life organs this week, gentlemen, before we get started? J-Man, do you have anything?
You know how I know I'm an adult? Because the most exciting thing I did this week was buy new pants.
Brilliant.
Did you ship your pants?
I did. I did ship my pants.
My boss asked me because, you see, the company has a budget. Every 6 months they get X amount from the government. So they have a bit of a budget, and if they don't spend it all, then the next 6 months they get a bit less. So my boss came up to me and he's like, do you have 50 euros you can spend something on? And I'm like, yeah, I need a new keyboard. So I got a new keyboard.
Sad man.
Yeah, well, for me, I just been trying to finish off the last final achievements for Megabyte Punch and trying to get Jenny to play with me to do there's one achievement where you have to reflect a projectile 10 times. So she has to hit the shield at a certain point. I'm like, all you have to do is hit this button, dear. That's all you have to do. That's all you have to do. She gave up.
And that's why he has so many kids, ladies and gentlemen. And over here in Finland,
I was going to say that explains sex life.
Not a whole lot. I wanted to see if we could spool up multiple instances, actually just one more, on our Rainbow Bridge video server, and it seems to be holding. And it was great. Contacted Sandy. I was like, Sandy, do you want to be on the show? We love you, and we'd really like you back. And that's all a lie. I just wanted to have a fourth spot for an interviewee. And so far, it's working. So if it nopes, it nopes, and we'll just pretend it never happened. J-Man, we got to pay some bills, son.
Yeah, and you know who's going to pay those bills? Schnappy, otherwise known as Schnappnikno.
Schnappalicious. Because he is awesome, man. Check that out. Unlimited disk space, unlimited bandwidth, easy control panel. You really got to try that demo. It's brilliant. They don't treat you like a chitlin. I mean, if you wanted to get into your sequel, once you get things sorted, you know, 5 different options for that. Easy installs for WordPress, PHP BB3, Drupal, all that. 99.9% uptime, and all that business is going to start $3.96 a month, and this only applies for your hosting, because you already have that bitching domain name, and it's 20% off, J-Man. It's brilliant.
No, it's not, because if you enter our offer code of seizure-tasticness, LinuxGameCast FTW, and that's for the wieners, not for the win, you can get 25% off. That is insane. That is unheard of. That is an extra 5% that you can go and invest in a Coke.
Cocaine.
Cool.
So I heard the horse went a bit old school this week. He kind of dropped down to CLI mode.
Yeah, no. He's only accessible via run level 3, and it's our Steam
Leadwerks.
Update.
So this has actually been a tool that has existed since the beginning of time. It was originally just to install dedicated servers on your Linux box, and because who really wants to run a production servers in Windows? But we'll talk about that a bit later. But you can now use it to download regular non-DRM Steam games if you just want to quickly install them without having to log into Steam and what have you. Which is great, because now you can, run your Natural Selection 2 server that nobody plays on.
Yep.
And you know what? You can set up a dedicated server for your native Arma 3. No, wait. Sorry, that's not on Linux. What about Insurgent? No, that's not on Linux either. Oh, wait, I know. Blade Sim... Nah, shit. Fuck.
Better luck next time, Sandy. But yeah, for me, all I can see actually useful out of this is someone setting up sort of a headless server to stream the games to your TV, to your laptop, to whatever. Just figure out a way to turn the CLI client into a streaming server. That'd be awesome.
That sounds like a neat idea. Well, I don't know. This apparently has been around forever. It just kind of ran across. I didn't know it existed, and I looked into it, and I was like, "Well, that's a thing. Don't know what I'd use it for. Maybe it's good for automating.
It's for running dedicated servers, really.
Right? Maybe automating downloading the non-DRM stuff from the Steams. That might be interesting. But something we brought up last week, Thunder.
Thunder.
War Thunder, what is it? You didn't watch last week's show, you never heard of it. It's a next generation MMO that's completely free, and you only have to pay 125.96 what stinky caches to have any fun. It's brilliant.
Don't go making deals with the Canadian devil, man.
Yeah,
you are the Canadian devil.
Definitely in the running against Wakfu against this business.
Yep.
You're either planes or tanks, you go pew, pew, pew. You can either play as the Germans or the wrong people. And really,
they wouldn't hurt a fly.
No, I mean we have one of those professors on our campus. So
listen to that guy. I mean, he wouldn't hurt a fly.
They're gentle people, gentle people.
What do you think about that DLC, Sandy? Are you going to pick it all up?
No, negative. Like it's not even worth it. Like 125. Like that's ridiculous. Like,
but you got to pay to win, man. Otherwise, how are you going to have fun?
Yeah, how are you going to have fun with it?
With the Steam release, did they at least fix the full screen issue that wouldn't let it launch?
That's the only reason I did that 9 gigajoule download again, because I was like, I don't care about this game, and I just downloaded it again. Another thing is, we were trying to bench something in the forums using Phronix just for shits and giggles, right?
Open GL2 for the win.
And like every third post was Free Jack, and he was like, but look at this War Thunder benchmark, guys. Let it go. I think NT got onto him for that. But no, they did fix the Windows thing. It launched. It takes it a moment to pick up. Did run the bench, played with it, and I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm not into playing something. P-Man, didn't Total Biscuit have a thing about in my day? I used to enter cheat codes.
Yep. Now I have to enter a credit card number. Because it's not just DLC, it's microtransactions. Even single-player games nowadays have microtransactions.
Speaking of which, it's a good time to spin Linux Gamecast microtransaction video game. You can give us all your money.
Right.
Yes. But, no.
How did they work?
Fucking magnets, man. How do they work? Well, the guys at Team Triple Slash probably played the last few levels of Limbo, and they were like, you know what? We can make a game out of this. It's just shifting the gravity, going from the ceiling to the floor to the ceiling to the floor to get through the levels, basically. And they're selling it for $9.99.
It's basically Flappy Bird, but with magnets.
Yeah.
But you know what's amazing about this? Like, finally a game that comes out for me that I can finally reverse polarities. Like, yes!
Sandy, it was called
No, fuck that game. Fuck that game. That's in the past, man. That's in the past.
Frustration Simulator 2012.
That's Portuguese for hipster. What we say?
We just say.
But you like it?
60 out.
I don't know.
All right. So Sandy, why don't you tell us about the new crap from Leadwerks?
Yeah, the first-person shooter DLC fucking resource pack, FPS. Like, oh my god. Okay, so they finally came out with this resource pack, which is for first-person shooters, and
$32.
It's for $32, and the models aren't even that fucking nice. Like, I was looking at the video, and I'm like, these models are not even that good. Like, they're comparable to the first Counter-Strike mod. Like, that's how. And they're like, oh, well, the coding is already done for you. It's like, really? And I had brought this up in the show notes. I was like, yeah, well, to play devil's advocate, like, they do have like 2 games that are being developed, but neither one of them are. No, the one of them is a first-person shooter, but it's a survival game. But like, really,
any one of those games have a working Linux version?
Negative. They don't have any working.
So they're not games. It's like, this is salad. It's not a game.
Yeah,
it's a promise of a
they're
game.
Promises. They're
ideas.
Definitely,
it's
if you
like how
follow
salad isn't food. It's
the
promise.
Leadwerks thing on the G Plus is like every third day. Somebody at Leadwerks remembers, is like, oh shit, we have a G Plus account, and it's like 15 fucking green light posts of like, oh, these games are coming out. And I think currently there is one game that you can purchase and get a demo for, but that's the only thing. I still want to say good on them for releasing my first Unity assets I can.
Yep. Because that's the first thing that came into my mind.
So, yeah. Fuck plants.
No, but speaking of that game engine nobody uses, here's some support for that device that no one uses. Because Leadwerks now has support for the Oculus Rift. Your prayers have finally been answered. Our long national nightmare is over. So if you go into
200 or 300 people in the world that have an Oculus Rift.
So basically, this entire article, this is from Leadwerks.com, and all these links are in our show notes, of course. Basically, it's just a reference guide on how to add Oculus Rift support to your game. And of course, if you scroll down to the comics, you have Josh Clint, the guy who actually wrote the article, saying 2D support, no, 3D's fine though. I don't know why you'd be using 2D stuff on an Oculus, but
hey man, you gotta play Super Mario Bros. On that NES emulator.
I don't know.
On your Oculus?
I'm just waiting for this thing to go mainstream,
play,
so everyone realizes that, you know what? People don't like wearing shite on their heads. That's going to be a thing. But good on them for helping out and doing all that.
Now onto something we actually care about.
Chivalry! Medieval warfare! Well, this is a bit of non-news because the Linux depot for Chivalry Medieval Warfare has been created, but it's still very much empty. And they have said that there is, in fact, a Linux and a Mac version coming. And it makes me wonder. They're taking their time.
When?
In a way, it could be good that they're taking their time because it means that they're probably porting the game properly. But it could also mean that they have no idea what they're doing and they're probably going to cock it up.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I looked at this. I never heard
Studios. You should totally call us and give us some early access.
Absolutely. Never heard of the game. Looking at it, I mean, wait until they do something with it because 24.99. Maybe that'll go on a LSL. It
used to be the original was actually a Half-Life 2 mod, Age of Chivalry, and then they kind of spun off into their own standalone game, kind of like Natural Selection 2. Now that I think about it.
Oh no, it's fine because the community will take care of it.
See, the best part about that game is like I was watching the trailer, and you look at the trailer, and all you see is like half the time in the trailer is like thrust kicks. So I'm like, oh sweet, they implemented foot to chest technology. I'm like, this is amazing. This is sick, brah. I'm like, let's get it.
Oh yeah. Ever since Mountain Blade came out, I'm like, when is Chivalry coming?
I kind of
I want to play.
this game.
Yeah.
I want to play it real bad.
Here's one question I have,
it-
since people know more about this than I do. Is it multiplayer only?
It's like
you
like
can
if you
play
took
against
Counter-Strike.
bots.
Yeah, it's basically Counter-Strike with swords.
Yeah.
Done. Okay.
So
Ensign 1.
Imagine a world.
Space World.
Ensign 1 is a space combat game that gives players the freedom to leave their fighter, to board ships, man turrets, and hijack alien fighters. Giggity. This is something that came out almost 2 years ago in a full release, and it's back as an early access game, priced at that magical $9.99. Let's see. Yeah, pretty decent. I know it runs. I would say it needs a bit of work, so you might want to wait on that.
So this is from friend of the show, Brandon Smith,
Right.
who has been working on this off and on longer than I've known Ven. So
wow.
Yeah, he's actually released like 2 or 3 games ever since he actually started working on Ensign 1. So, yeah.
I mean the concept is cool. It's sort of like what do you call it, Battlefront, but
Yeah.
not in like the Star Wars thing, and you can get out of your ship in the middle of space and not die
You
from
can
vacuum.
dock with space stations and big ships and play like FPS style and explore around. It's got an awesome concept. It just needs more content.
Well, it needs
Like
content,
honestly, what
and he
Star
needs to hire an
Citizen
artist. And the first thing you're going to be greeted with is my voice organ. So keep that in mind. My voice is actually on a game on Steam that you can download. Sandy, what are your thoughts?
on
Hence
Steam.
allegations.
See, the concept is awesome because it reminds me of Star Citizen and that everything that they're trying to achieve. But like the music, like I was listening to the trailer and I was like, why does this sound like a fantasy title? Like this sounds like one of those like, point and click fantasy titles. And I was like, I'm like, this is a little mixed up, man. I'm like, instant not buy. But since it's in early access and it's been out for a while and he's been off and on, there's definitely going to need to be some polishing before I can start tossing some coins at it.
All right. So you're going to let it shine, J-Man?
Oh man, see, in the age of YOLO Doritos Mountain Dew, bro, it's very refreshing that we see this game, this war of mine. Swag. I'm the best.
The best.
No, but I mean, like this is kind of poignant. What with Veterans or Victory or Remembrance Day sort of looming in the background. This is a survival game. It's not a survival horror game that sort of displays the terrors and human costs of war as you try to keep this building of people alive. And it paints a very dramatic picture of sort of what happens to the people who are not the invaders and who are just the civilians trying to scratch their lives together in a war zone.
So it's like a Hellen Kellen. So Keller.
Hellen Kellen. Band name and show title.
P-Man.
I was actually genuinely curious about this game when it first came out in like 2012 or something. I wonder what took him so long.
Well, I see. My rebuttal to that would probably be the Anomaly series. That would probably be my rebuttal to that because it is the same studio that made the Anomaly series, and so they ported it over, like their whole series over. So, like,
Okay.
They probably didn't put that top priority. You know what I mean, son?
So this old friend.
Trine Enchanted Edition. It is, well, if you played Trine 2, it's using that engine, but it's the very first Trine. You get to play the original story on your Linux through Steam with multiplayer. You can have up to 3 people cocking around.
Which is awesome. That was like big. I played Trine 1 long before I started this dog and pony show with Ven. He brought the dogs and the ponies, by the way. So, no, that was my biggest gripe with Trine 1 is that was single player. You can't play along with friends. So we should totally start playing it and never finish it.
That sounds familiar.
Totally should.
Sandy, you going to pick it up? I don't know if I want to drop 14.99 wet stickies for the memories.
Yeah, I'm not too sure on this. So like,
I mean,
I think I'm probably
especially-
gonna wait until it goes on sale, and then
especially if you already own
included in
Triton.
Yeah,
Right.
it was included in the Humble Bundle 2 or
yeah, I
3.
did pick that up.
Yeah.
Pick
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
where I got Trine originally. It was one of the Humbly Boondalies. And
Yeah.
I'm not dropping... No, I mean, Trine's fun for what it is, but yeah.
If you redeemed the Steam key, you should have it now. It should work. But
See, I thought it
going
was-
from Frozen Byte to Frozen Synapse, the devs, 11 Studios, what's his name again? I Hutchinson.
That.
Hi Hutchinson. He went on
Hi,
the
Hutchinson.
forums to respond to a request for, bringing the game to Linux and macOS. And he's like, everyone was giving like okay, so Linux only has 1%, but 1% of 80 million people is still 800,000 people. But he's like, Mac Linux only account for 9% and 11% respectively of overall sales. If that 9 or 1% in revenue is not the cost of the port, we will not do it. And apparently, he says that they're spending around $30,000 per port. Now, I don't know what sort of QA house they have outsourced the QA to.
Call us.
Yeah, 11. LGC, see, there's 4 of us here. We all have plenty of different systems, plenty of different hardware configurations. You pay us, say,
But true.
$5,000. $5,000.
35.
There's 4 of us, a bunch of different systems, and we'll QA that shit for you.
But you know,
It's a
my
very
favorite thing in
real
the comment in the comments for this in the thread itself, someone suggested that they contact Brian C. Gordon. The C, of course, stands for Cranston. And I was
Brian.
distraught. I was distraught to find that no picture exists on the internet of Brian Cranston at a computer. Makes me so sad.
Say my name. No.
But yeah,
on one hand,
I read through the entire
on
post
one
and I
hand.
wanted to slap that motherfucker.
On one hand, I get exactly what they're saying. Dragons are expensive, It's he's got to develop better tools. I mean, if you start, it just comes to say, I mean, if you start multi-platform development, and QJ man, he'll finish that sentence.
Well, the guy actually did bring up that their toolkit is cross-platform. The problem is that if you're developing, even if you're using cross-platform tools, as Ben was trying to say, you actually have to develop it for cross-platform. You have to realize, hey, these systems all have these various little differences. Let's do this all at once. Ship it out to testers. Have a early access or beta or something that you can hammer all these issues out before the game gets released. And most gamers are more than happy to report bugs.
They are happy to
Yep.
report bugs, but I understand the cost in doing it. I mean, if the return on investment is not there, I don't expect studios to do it. Especially indie
It is a
studios.
logical. Yeah, it's
Right.
logical for sure.
Sandman,
But
thoughts?
that's
No,
the thing.
I absolutely agree with you because that is kind of the big thing. Like, you have to price to sell if you're going to do an early access, and especially with the bug fixes, and if you are doing cross-platform. Like, that's the big thing. If you're going to do cross-platform in an early access, you need to price to sell. Like, the more updates that you do, then you can start raising the price. You know what I mean? Like, the game becomes what it's worth at that point, because now you're getting it, so it's becoming more optimized for each platform. Like, this is common sense stuff.
Yeah, and actually, you do bring up a very good point. Early access games should not be the same price as their finished counterparts.
Yes.
And yet, this is what we're seeing on Steam constantly.
Yeah, and that's how people run scams and make shit tons of money with my first Unity game.
All right, close this out, baby.
And with that, that closes off our very chaotic 4-man Steam update of the week. I don't know what the 4-dimensional version of the Eiffel Tower is, but we did that to the horse. So let's run.
It's
let's
smaller
go back
on the
to,
inside.
let's go back to run level 5 and talk about some news.
It's time for the news, and in true LGC fashion, to open up the news, we got some new drivers. This time from NVIDIA.
That's right. They're going to be throwing the 346.16 beta versions in your face, Organ. A couple things about this that you might have never heard of. Let's get to the right spot, Vin, and maybe you can read off your fuck-mothering notes. They fixed the GS and GLSL compiler bug that would produce corruption when running games such as Far Cry 3 and Wine. Good guy NVIDIA fixing wine bugs. And here's one thing that really made me happy, Sauce, because I've been installing the NVIDIA driver since the 2000s in Linux, and I've always wondered, it's like you're doing chmod, do you run? It's like, boom. It would take fuck-mothering forever. I mean, even on the octo-core render boxes, it still takes too long.
It only takes forever if you enable the KMS thing, right?
No, here's what they did. They said, oh, right, we're going to enable multi-core. So when you're compiling it won't take fucking forever. You had a couple of issues with the one the Fedoras.
Oh, yeah, no. Well, speedy install is really nice. I was actually impressed. Like, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Hey, that's great. And when I reboot my machine, my secondary monitor would outright not get picked up. And when it did, it would only be available in 800 by 600, but I had the option to downscale it to 640 by 480 because that's an option on a 1080p monitor. No, and you know what? I spent a good 20 minutes on this. I was fucking around with XRndar. I was fucking around with xorg.com. Nothing. Nothing. Roll back to, I'm on 343.22 right now. And no issue. Upgrade, same issue. Roll back, no issue. And I'm like, well, I'm staying here for now. So
on the 970, it works.
Well, yeah.
On Aurora 20.
Yeah. What I guess I'm almost nearing. No, they're still supporting the 4 series, so I'm not quite in calculator range just yet.
I got the 760 on my the Steam box upstairs, and like I downloaded that immediately after I saw that, and so I was like, oh my god, this is so much way better. All the wine games that I have, my heathen purchases, they run phenomenal. Like it's so much better. Like I love it. I want to actually get some of the 900 series and actually test them on those. So, yeah, I want to pick up some of the newer cards and see how they work.
I didn't have a chance to futz with it, and to be perfectly honest, here on the render box, I've actually went back to Xorg edges, and finally ripped out all the Ubuntu. You really have to do that. There's a script for it.
Yep.
Where you can get to where you can just drop in, kill light DM, boom, install Bob's Your Uncle, reboot, and you're done with it. And I did that like 2 releases ago, and it just nuked all the GL linkage, and I was,
Yep.
Forget it. But good on them, like I said, for fixing the wine stuff. I mean, NVIDIA is, I think J-Man was saying before we started, he was like, oh, file a bug report. And I was like, that's good. They will listen to it. And guess what? They'll probably fix it.
Unlike AMD.
That's right. That's
and you know what? Especially about being elite on shit like that.
Where Linux?
Yes. Yes, where Linux?
It's up your butt.
Elite Dangerous it finally got a release date for December 16th. Frontier Developments has just recently announced this on, what was it, GameSpot? Yes, GameSpot.com. Yes. And so it's going to cost you $60, but we're still waiting on the Linux version.
No, correct me if I'm right. The only time they've ever mentioned Linux was during their crowdfunding, and now it's been like, oh, never heard of it. What? Skullgirls?
Yeah, it's been a while. And this is the guy that was interviewed by TuxRadar.com a couple of months ago. And he's the one that said, and I quote, they have it here. It's the Raspberry Pi thing. A common platform would help, and there are a number of these coming through, including Raspberry Pi. But
Because you like gaming on an ARM 6L processor. Right.
But yeah, the Linux format guys asked him, so what's your position on Linux gaming? And he goes on a tirade saying basically consoles are better. But lastly, he says, sadly, the openness of the platform and the variations between setups make it a challenging platform too. Piracy is much easier because of that openness.
No, if you know how to use a computer, piracy is easier. That's...
No. I want to see this guy go on the Pirate Bay and download a Linux game and get it to run. I really want to see this.
When you make a statement like that, this is my big thing. When you make a statement like pirating is easier on Linux, how would you know unless you were on Linux and all you did was pirate? Like, did you compare between Windows, Mac, and Linux? And said, Linux is the easiest.
No, he's towing the line from billions of years ago in the future's past of, that's why we don't port, guys, piracy. Ha! See, now we don't have to port because piracy. This is just rubbish. This guy's completely pants on head. Retarded. When I read the Raspberry Pi thing, I thought that J-Man would shut the hell up and let me get a sentence out again this week. When I read that, I was like, I don't care what this guy says. He is genuinely fucking daft. Yeah. Wow. But hopefully we will get to see Space Sim Elite Dangerous come to the Linux.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice. I mean, the last Elite game that even came close to a Unix platform was the original Elite back in 1980-something.
Well, what, did it run on SCO Xenix?
Show me the Benjamins.
Yep. Ah, yes, rich bitches. Now, this comes from Rich Geldrich, whatever you want to call him. And he's the guy, you may remember him from, again, a couple of months ago, where he's made that blog post about the truth regarding OpenGL drivers.
Now, he was a former Valve employee, right?
Yeah, yes. He worked there for like 3 months, and then went away. Now he's probably in the shitter and he's trying to drive ad revenue from his blog because all he does is post these sensationalists type of things.
Maybe he had an informative talk with Laravel.
Yeah, I think the two of them would get along. But yeah, basically he says that Valve is far too worried on Linux when they should be, actually looking at their store and everything. And then he quoted a post from somewhere, I think Slashdot.
Slashdot.
Yeah, Slashdot. And there's a guy here who has a sort of a conspiracy theory saying that Valve did this whole thing in order to give Microsoft a sort of reality check.
Here's the thing. I just got to interject with this because that was a thing. We did bring this up. Windows really wanted to go Apple with download everything.
Windows Marketplace.
Right. And Valve's like, you don't get a cut of our business, son. I'm fuck-mothering Gabe Newell. And yes, I do think this was forethought, with just getting Steam on Linux saying, we got some more Ux, bro. What you got?
Yeah, you're not the only option.
Definitely something I said as a prediction on last year's prediction episode. I genuinely, in my cold black heart, don't see the Steam box taking off. Now get ready, your pitchforks. But I do see it's too late now to nix the Linux client. Too much shit, too much work. Aspire, Feral, Double Fine, all these guys have thrown in there, and you don't want to make those enemies. Yeah.
Yep. And the entire post, the entire Slashdot post that he quoted in his article, it's conjecture, it's pure conjecture, but it makes sense. And hell, if Valve came out and said, hey, we just spent thousands upon thousands of man-hours and millions of dollars just to show Microsoft who's boss. Well, they came out in public and said that, I'd be okay with
I don't know. Just reading over this, it reads like somebody who's just butthurt about the controller not working. I mean, he contributed to Vogel. He noped out of Valve, and granted, he's got a couple of points. Yes, Direct3D is certainly a leaner and simpler API currently. Right now, I'll give you that. And OpenGL 5, yes, correct. Get rid of global state and immediate mode for fuck's sake. I'll definitely give him that. But it reads like, but you'll never get the Steam controller. And everyone goes, right, Xbox controller, yellow swag, bruh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like I was trying to say, trolling that benefits open source is best trolling. If Valve has basically gone and said, we've spent millions of dollars in R&D just to troll Microsoft, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, at this point...
let me finish. You talk for like 5 minutes. I don't know. Yeah, like Ben said, this sort of smacks of, I would say, desperation.
Butthurt.
Butthurt. Yeah, I do agree that at the longer Valve waits to release the Steam box, the more awkward market position they're in, because these new consoles are now starting to get a foothold, even though they're still pumping out games for the PS3 and the Xbox 360.
But hey, the new consoles recently have been in a very bad light because they're being blamed of holding back gaming.
True, but that doesn't matter to Joe Consumer. Joe Consumer just wants to play his Call of Duties. He wants to play his Maddens. And where do you go to do that? You buy your Xbox One. You buy your PS4. And this trend will continue. And the more of a foothold that the current generation of consoles get, the harder it's going to be for Valve to come in and say, "Here's our brand new product." Yeah,
you already own 600 games on.
Sandy, what do you think about this?
Well, not everyone.
Okay.
Not everyone owns all those PC games.
All right. So, but the big thing is like you look at like the consoles right now, like the Xbox One. You have games like that were supposed to be like Xbox exclusives for the Xbox One with the whole thing, like Rise, Son of Rome. Oh, look, that's on Steam now because like they've already passed their contract time. You know, like the big thing is that
Sandy, that's how exclusives work.
Yeah. Exclusives are only supposed to be on one platform.
Until the contract expires.
Yeah, until the contract expires.
That's how they work, Sandy.
And yeah. And but the big thing is like with the whole DirectX, yes, it is simple, it is lean, but it's not getting them on more than one platform. Like all DirectX gets them on is Windows and Xbox. Whereas like OpenGL is going to get them on every platform.
You forgot
well, hold on, because Microsoft even has some incentive to work on their OpenGL implementation, considering that WebGL is a thing and a lot of apps are moving to the browser.
Well, this is a very much of a side. Microsoft is moving Skype to HTML5 and RTC.
Interesting. Maybe we can start using them again.
Oh, shit.
Now that .NET is open source and everything.
But they have to. They have to do that because they have to compete on an enterprise level, because now that they see that there's this option now for people to go somewhere for gaming, and not just for consoles but for PC, where it's cheaper for developers to be able to develop for this platform, and then it works on a number of platforms, whereas theirs, it's like it works for Windows and Xbox, and they have to spend extra money just to get it to work on every other platform. And so like they have to try to keep that enterprise so they can keep all these developers developing on Windows, so that way they can be like, oh yeah, it works multi-platform.
Speaking of developers, like Pedro said,
go chase that cake.
Oh yeah. So this is actually huge. Microsoft has open sourced .NET and Mono. They have released the entire .NET runtime under the MIT license. Mm-hmm. They have provided a patent promise that they will not sue people because they're realizing, well, this is essentially a concession of the server market.
Well, I think one thing you might want to say real quick is the MIT, for Arch users, is the MIT is much like the BSD license in the fact that you really don't have to contribute back.
It's open source, but you can sell the code.
Right.
And stuff you link to that code does not get infected by GPL. That is the main tenet of the GPL, is that if you link GPL code to your existing code, your code becomes GPL.
Right.
what's really interesting is the implications for gaming, because a lot of the games that come out on Linux via Unity are using Mono, which is the open source implementation, or the current open source implementation of .NET. Now that .NET, the real boy, is open source, and in a couple months, we will start seeing .NET applications being ported on Linux, running natively. This has some interesting implications for gaming that I do not think we can predict at this time.
I don't think we can predict it, but I do think that goes back to what we've all known. I mean, anybody who's paid any attention is Microsoft under Satya Nadella, I believe is...
It's the
Satya
Indian guy.
Nadella,
I forget his
yeah.
name.
Satya. He's unfucking the Ballmer effect. I mean, he's not throwing chairs. He gave us the chairs. He's like, take care of them, guys. And they're transitioning to a service company. I mean, like I said, Microsoft is still very much like a cat. It is kind of do nice, but it will just out of its DNA try to fuck with things. But the guys at Mono said, hey, we're going to start merging some of this stuff in too. Good on that. P-Man, thoughts, hints?
Well, like Jordan said, Unity uses Monogame to bring itself to Linux. So if we can get rid of Mono and just use .NET natively, maybe, just maybe, Unity games will not be so shit on Linux from now on.
Well, they're still pretty shit on Windows, so there is that.
Sad
But
the big thing is that like development wise, it would help the gaming industry, like with a lot of the .NET support ports, because obviously developers seem to have a hard time trying to fucking port everything to Mono games. So this would definitely make the transition easier with a lot of the games, and hopefully the quality will be that much better when they come over. Hopefully.
Well, like I said, this literally just happened on Wednesday, so it's too early to tell what the actual implications implications are. But this is huge. And now Sandy's going to talk for about 3 minutes about dolphin audio.
Yes.
Yes. Please don't do the dolphin impersonation again.
Thank you.
Do it.
Too fucking bad. It's a
So this is coming from dolphinemu.org. If you don't know about it, you have heard of it. That's how you can play your Wii games and your old cube thingy. Yeah.
Yes.
GameCube.
And so what the big problem was that the community was screaming that they weren't explaining how the emulation process was working. So lately they had come out and said, okay, yeah, we will do a documentary, almost like a little write-up on how everything worked. And they talked about like HLE audio and how it's progressed over the years, and how they how do I define that? How the bugs would come out and it would not auto sync, but it would come out of sync with the gameplay. So like sound effects, music, and it would drop frame rate. Like some games would actually drop frame rate so it could like sync with the sound. And so like with the AX HLE, they actually fixed it so that way it was actually properly coming down through the RAM. I think they have a diagram. It goes DSP HLE, and then it goes through the RAM, the AI, the emulated mixer, and then through the speakers. So that way it's actually being properly like formatted through the system. It's being emulated properly, and they had like a bunch of samples of like the old music files that were actually coming out, and then with how it's actually properly being processed through the kilohertz. Is that, you're the sound guy there, Van?
Kilodeaths, yes.
Yeah, kilodeaths. So I found
the megadeaths.
The megadeaths.
Winning.
I found actually like this game, like since 1.0,
which we can't actually see because
sorry, but like Arcrise Fantasia and Soul Calibur Legends and Xenoblade Chronicles, like I still keep the frame rate, and that's been since 2.0-1 something, and like it's just been phenomenal. Like the frame rate just for Wii games, like I can run them
So this is the latest in a series of articles from these Dolphin guys, basically describing what they're doing and how they're doing it.
It is. It's pretty neat. But P-Man, does this make you want to break out your copy of Hello Kitty Island Adventure?
No, it's actually good to see a developer sticking to one of their promises for once, because they did promise that they were going to give more updates on what they're working on. And it's good that it's not just the updates, they're actually making progress with not just the graphics, but also the audio.
Indeed. So coming up next, we throw chairs in space, which is my favorite place.
Australia.
And we're throwing chairs at Space Base by our good pals at Double Fine, who snuck this into our Steam accounts for no reason, apparently. It's built on the Buddha engine, apparently, which tells you to embrace Nirvana and give up all your worldly possessions and blah, blah, blah. You can pick it up for $21.99 Canadian, $20.01 US, and if you live in Moon, Portugal, they don't quite have space money there. And it is a space station strategy game where you basically build out your space station, manage your crew, and stop them from going nuts and killing themselves, a la 2001: A Space Odyssey, minus the robots. So, of course, everything we throw chairs at in space has to face our galactic chairquisition. 1 chair means that it's shit. 2 chairs means that it's meh. 3 chairs means that it's pretty good. And 4 chairs means that it's fucking awesome. We also have our categories of doom mixed with the working shiny sounds, controls, and fun. And this is a special review this week because we have 4 people. The 4th chair has opened up, and Sandy has sat on it, and it stabbed him right up the ass.
The 4th
so let's get started.
Giggity.
Giggity. So let's get started. Ben, did it make with the working?
Mixed with the working. One thing I did notice in, if we scoot down here for the audio listeners, the requirements to make sure that you have a DirectX compatible sound card. Fortunately, after getting glibc up and running, that wasn't too much of an issue.
glibc OS, man. That's
Right.
bomb.
No, I mean, it'll work with anything. Also, Pulse audio supplied. And here's something, put your pitchforks down, because I understand, yes, I went back and did my research, and aliens. No, 1.Z, that release, yeah, that was completely busted. But we're now up to 1.Z6, and they pretty much have almost everything sorted out. So, yeah. I mean, on the Ubuntu, Dual 770, octo-core, box of business. I'm going to have to give this one 4 chairs, J-Man.
Yeah, no, I had thought I had, after Double Fine had stealth added this to my Steam library, I thought I had installed it, but apparently I didn't. So I gave this the business this morning. No issues on my Fedora 20 64-bit GTX 670 AMD 1090T powered box of By My Footness. So 4 chairs.
And for me, on the new PC with the AMD 8370E FX and the Asus Strix GTX 970, it ran out of the box, no problems. On my netbook here, with an AMD C30 APU, 2 gigs
Wave
of
it
RAM.
around some more, Pedro. And loosen your grip.
With the open source drivers, it also worked out of the box. So 4 chairs.
And for my octa-core AMD 6770, 1 terabyte, fucking on the Catalyst drivers, there was I had some issues with a lot of the graphics, but that's for the shiny and sounds. But the open source, it worked fine. And when I ran it on the SteamOS, which was the i7 first gen 670, it ran right out of the box on SteamOS. So I give it 3 chairs.
All right, so that's 3
I think
chairs.
there's a bit of a correction to the engine there from Empty.
The Buddha engine was Brutal Legend. This is
Moai.
the Moai engine.
Moai.
Moai engine. All right, correction. Good thing we're
what's that?
accountable. Unlike
3
Pharonics.
chairs.
Shiny and so.
You know, I would actually, for what it is, it does its job. And you got to look at a game for what it's supposed to do. You know, if I'm playing FERPs and it looks like ass, I'm like, that's one chair. But if I'm playing something that's SimCity in space, and that's kind of what it's trying to go for, that's what I'm going to grade it against. And I would actually have given this 3 chairs if it wasn't for that fucking seizure-inducing menu. Every time you clicked, it's like, I don't need that every time, man. I did a lot of things in my past. Brain organ doesn't like that. Really, that really caused me physical pain. The sounds I didn't bother because this is genuinely one of those games, like any type of resource management, sim type things, you just throw on the Slayer because that's only acceptable for games like this with the possible exception of Inya. Like I said, I really wanted to give it the 3 chairs, but I got to give it 2 because of that seizure-inducing menu that you're constantly going to have in your face, organ. J-Man?
See, I saw this visually as sort of a middle of the road. It's not fantastic. It certainly does have that Double Fine style that we're all sort of accustomed to. Mm-hmm. By looking at this game, you can tell, yeah, this is a Double Fine game. Looks like The Cave. It looks like Brutal Legend. All the sort of character animation is very similar. The music reminds me of FTLs, except worse. You're going to be hearing this a lot from me about this game. Yeah. It's like FTL, but worse.
But
anyways, and so the music was meh. Everything else is middle of the road. I think 2 chairs is fair because it's meh. It's middle of the road. So yeah, P-Man.
Well, for me, I didn't hate the visuals. Granted, the menu thing got a bit of annoying, but after a while, I just tuned it out. I made sure to blink whenever I clicked on it.
Kind of like Nori.
Yeah, let's not go down that road.
Let's go down that road. So how's your sex life, Pedro?
Actually doing pretty good. The entire game reminds me a lot of Theme Hospital from back in the 90s. It's got that very same feel to it, and much like Jordan said, the music has a bit of FTL. It really fits the space theme, but it is a bit more annoying than FTL's was. I actually really enjoyed FTL's music. This one, not so much. So 3 chairs.
Whoop, 3 chairs.
3 chairs. Ah.
And as for me, like I said, on the Catalyst drivers, the FGLX drivers, FGLRX drivers, the text was like either non-existent or it was garbled to begin with. Like the gameplay, like it reminded me of The Sims. They were just lacking the derp 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 derp, you know, like that aspect, because they had like the whole what was it? I don't want to do this, you know, like the facial expression things, and but the sound was it was okay. Like I'm only gonna give it 2 chairs.
All right, so that's 2 whole chairs for Shining Sounds. Next is Control. Ben, did you feel like you were in Control?
Physical controls. It's really hard to cock that up on something like this. Keyboard organ worked.
Clickety click.
Gerbil. Click, point, click. No. Get out of that airlock. I don't care if you have a suit. No. Fuck your kids. Digging in that seizure-inducing submenu, like 4 deep. After you get over the seizure things, you just close your eyes like Nori does. And then you open it up. Then you, every time you want to build something, like this menu, submenu, there's what? A bed. Yes, all right. That's 1 bed. Then let's do that again. And I can tell you, that system, maybe if I could bind it and was like, here, you do this, I want to build airlock here, and whatever, and 4 tiles and all that. But going into that mothering menu can eat a glorious bag of dicks. Seriously, that caused me to nope out of this game almost by itself. So what can I give it? I love you, Tim, but 2 chairs, best I can do.
Yeah, this game is like super unfinished. You can tell that fairly quickly. Yep. I agree with Ben. Like the menu system is completely. It is a bottleneck because you have to go 1, 2, every single fucking time. The other thing that kind of bothers me is you can't assign dedicated resources to do work. You have basically say X, Y, and Z needs to be done, and then you let it go, and then someone will do it with the relevant skill set. The controls really do remind me of FTL, but worse, because you can't micromanage it as you would a strategy game. All the various characters have all the various crew members have their various likes and dislikes and preferences. And a lot of them want to be bartenders, but here's the problem. You only need one bartender, ever.
Yeah.
It's just a bit annoying.
Where's the prostitutes,
not being able
bro?
to... Yeah, no, it's annoying not being able to assign resources, and you have to do it from a human perspective. I guess that sort of works. It's sort of flipping the existing paradigm on its head, but that existing paradigm is established and riffed on and used consistently for a reason, in that it lets you do what the fuck you actually want to do in the game. So I'm going to give this 2 chairs, because it's just bleh.
Yeah, and, well, Jordan already said it. It is very much unfinished. I think, or I guess, that they were going to improve on the tutorial and the explanation and the ability to rebind keys when the game was finished properly. But they ran out of money, and they said, nope, not gonna do it.
JK.
Nope. You guys bought early access? Okay, you can have it. It's finished. Here's the Lua code. You sort it out. So yeah, you can't rebind keys, but then again, the keyboard is basically just hotkeys in order to go directly into specific portions of the menu. It helps if you don't want to look and you don't want to have a seizure when looking at the screen. But yeah, the tutorial was not very good. It took me a while to actually figure out what they wanted me to do and how they wanted me to do it. So for me, 2 chairs.
I felt I was not in control, man. Like usually with a lot of these sims, there's set buttons and everything, like a right click or a left click with a lot of these sims that allow it easier, so you can be like, okay, go here, right click, to do stuff. And I found that I had no control. I had to try to figure out these whole new sets, and they never explained like what buttons did what. And so I just found I had to fucking fidget it with everything. It was driving me insane. And like you said, Ven, I love Tim and the guys at Double Fine, but the most I'm even remotely gonna give this is 2 chairs.
All right, so that's 2 chairs with controls. And now our final category, fun. Then, did you have fun?
It's Sims in space. That's never going to get old, is it? Honestly, I can't hate it, really. If I was stuck on an Island organ, I would take a game like this and a satellite phone. That said, my brain nopes at resource management games. Why, you ask? Well, other than it's because we consider that work, and we should be getting paid for it, not the other way around.
Yeah.
Nothing against Double Fine. This type of game just genuinely does not appeal to me, and maybe it's unfinished, maybe it's not. I can't tell. Best I could do is maybe 30 minutes into it. The tutorial is a bit like, what the hell's going on? Kind of agree with P-Man on that. Got past that, and it's very short, and it's like, yeah, here's a general idea of kind of how you fucking play it. Deal with it, fucker. And so for the fun, I've seen worse. I'll give this a 2 chairs, because, like I said, with that whole Island thing, if you have the time to reverse engineer how to play a fucking game without instructions, this is the one.
One thing I ran into with the tutorial was it's like, build an airlock in the dark blue room with 2 doors and a suit rack. So I did it. And it didn't let me go on to the next portion of the tutorial. So I just kept fucking around and playing the game as normal. One thing that really stuck out for me was, incoming space debris. Okay, take cover. Okay, what do? I go through all the menus. Well, apparently nothing. And then it hit. And then I'm like, oh, I guess if like one guy was standing there, he would have died, but no one was. I don't know. This game again reminds me a lot of FTL. Minus the exploration, the adventure, the high stakes, and the overall fun. And motherfucker, I don't care if you want to be a bartender. I need you to build oxygen recyclers, or I will jettison you out the airlock so that I have the oxygen I actually require. I do like the names they do give the crewmen, though. That was their one redeeming factor. Is they're all sort of like little pastiches off of existing sci-fi characters or writers or people involved, and it's like, oh, Will Wheaton, I'm sending you to die. So when all is said and done, I did not have fun playing this game at all. I'm gonna give this one chair.
Yeah, I guess that is basically the gist of it. It's not fun. I liked Theme Hospital back in the day. I loved it. It was one of those games that I kept reinstalling on every PC I had the chance to play on. It was fun. It was genuinely fun. And it was very clearly aiming to be sort of a callback to those days, those types of games. But in space. In the end, though, it ended up being a very, very boring FTL, borrowing Jordan's thing here, where instead of going on an epic adventure, you just micromanage a bunch of whiny little bitches. One chair.
I don't know what else I can add that everyone's already said. Like, this played like a Sims, but wanted to be faster than light. Like, there's only so much they could do. And, like, I sat there waiting to be able to do some The Sims Nookie action. And I was like, fail. Nope, can't do that. And like Jordan said, like, I don't give a fuck what you want to do. Do your damn job. Like, I'm giving you a job, do it. Why aren't you doing it?
What could you possibly know about following orders?
Yeah, exactly. What would I possibly know? You know what I mean? Like, I have no idea. Like,
Sandy plays by no one's rules, not even his own.
I play by no one's rules. I'm a hipster. Just remember that. Hipster.
Rules are too mainstream, man.
So I'm
Tinker
giving it
Taylor
one.
Hipster Spy.
One fucking chair.
All right, so that is one chair for fun. And if we tally up our 4-man gangbang of Double Fine Spacebase DF-9, we get 2 chairs because it worked and the video kind of worked and the controls kind of worked. So, I don't know. We've pretty much comprehensively covered this game. Does anyone have any final thoughts?
A little bit of final thoughts. I thought the roster thing was kind of interesting. It's like, it's an interesting mechanic, but yeah, the more I hear you guys talking about that, I mean, it does come back. It feels like they were trying something incredibly fuck-mothering ambitious, and that's not what we got. I mean, they wrapped up the end so it didn't fucking crash all the time, but we're not done with. I would love to have seen what they really planned out to do. That's really all I got to say about that. I mean, there was nothing new, mind-blowing. There was some Double Fine humor in there, but I was too busy dodging that fucking menu. Because apparently you can rebind keys, or you can't, or the hotkeys or something. Fucking nobody ever told me that. I don't have time to sit and press all the fucking keyboard organs. P-Man?
Yeah, you mentioned the roster thing. That's not new. There's an app. It's a mobile game called Tiny Tower that does that. You can assign citizens to their dream jobs, and you increase their productivity and the revenue.
Mobile game appcast. Brilliant.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I suppose Total Biscuit said it best. The game...
Plagiarism!
Yep. Thank you.
The game is working. There's just no content. There's nothing to give this game any sort of lifespan. And it's ruining Double Fine's sort of reputation, because one game out of their 30-something years in gaming They made one shit game, and everyone's giving them hell for it. That, to me, doesn't sound fair, but the game is not very good.
All
So-
right. So on one final quick note,
It's the James Cameron problem.
would
They
you
set the
pay
bar too
20
high.
wet stinky cashes for this, Sandman? Would you?
I did.
All right.
Yeah, that's
And
but,
how do you feel? How do you feel about that?
see, like, I love throwing money at Double Fine because they do, like Pedro said, they do a wonderful job with games.
Do you think your children
On the
organs could
whole-
get some use out of it?
No, no, my children will never get any use out of it. And but like usually on the whole, Double Fine is on it. You know what I mean? Like they nail the games with their humor. Like they have everything. Like even with the menu systems, like it's just this game seems like it's not them. Like it wasn't them making this game, and like they're just like literally giving it out to someone else and. They're like, yeah, we're going to slap our name on it, you know? And now they're instantly regretting it, you know? Yeah, it just doesn't seem like them. And hopefully Massive Chalice will be better.
Well, you see, one quick final thought. Double Fine's strength tends to be in the RPG and the action games. This is something.
Yeah, story-driven games. For the most
Story-driven
part.
games. This is something new where you're sort of supposed to create your own story. You're supposed to micromanage your crew and make sure they're happy and whatnot. Like Ben said, very ambitious. Could have used some more time in the oven, but they were hemorrhaging money. Coming up next, the new Desura owners are stalking us. Woo!
Cocaine.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's here. It's the hate mail. And just a quick reminder, if you'd like to get in touch with us, send us some hate. We love it. We like to feature it. Go on over to LinuxGameCast.com. Push that lovely contact button on the nav bar, fill out your name, fill out your email, give us a subject, give us your message, prove you're smarter than Vensbot, and we'll be happy to feature your message, unless, of course, you're trying to promote some sort of crowdfunding campaign. If you are, make sure to include some sort of demo, prototype, alpha, beta, whatever you want to call it, because if you don't, not only will we not mention your project, we will make fun of you. Sound fair? All right.
So this first one is from Jeff Jirsa, not Jirsa. and he says, so he's actually one of the guys from Desura, and he says, guys, there's way more than 7 months of cocaine left, 10 years of alcohol. But seriously, curation is something we're focusing on. Overall quality way up. Linux client revamp, etc. This is something he tweeted at Ven, because apparently the guys from Desura now watch our shit.
Well, continuing
Yeah,
on with this business, Desura himself wrote back, and the reason we have both of these is just to prove that we're not making this. Jeff miscalculated the cocaine supply. The Linux client is going to take a lot of all-nighters. Now, I don't know if they were watching the show or just doing massive searches for Desura. Last week we did mention, well, actually, I personally mentioned, once they come out of their alcohol-induced cocaine stupor, they're going to go, well, what do we do? What do we just do, guys? P-Man, I think maybe this gives us some hope for these lot.
Yeah, all of a sudden, ever since Bad Juju got a hold of them, I like the new Desura people. I like them very much.
They seem to be on the ball, so we'll see if they can stay on the ball. But good luck to them now.
What are your thoughts?
They've proven that they're cool guys.
I really hope that Desura actually steps up their game and becomes a full legitimate, like rival to Steam and GOG.
Mm-hmm.
That's why,
one thing I do want to point out is they wrote me back personally, and I said that's one of the primary focuses is quality control, because that's one thing I did mention, because I legitimately played a game that, and read in the forums, it was some stupid little racer game, and this is a repeat from last week in case you didn't watch it. Go watch it, download it, give us monies. And the developer was like, this is my first game. You guys need to cut me some slack, and I'm not going to give you any refunds, Dorito. And it would be neat, if these guys are bringing up their cocaine supply, good on you.
Yep.
Not that we know anything about that, because LGC Chaos And we do not
Cocaine
endorse the
gives you
use
superpowers.
of cocaine because continued use of cocaine may result in additional superpowers. That's good to see. What do you think, J-Man? Yeah.
No, these guys have shown that they're pretty cool, so I wish them luck. They have a fairly mountainous task ahead of them.
Yeah.
Get it? Mountain head. But you know, if they can step up, good for them. We'll keep reporting on it.
All right. So, anyone take this one?
Sylvain Bastien. He says, "Hello. I'm sorry for my English. I am French. For my
How
studies, I
unfortunate.
want to create an open source web TV. I work with a lot of VLC, which is very comprehensive, but is limited to one stream. I have any ideas or tips for managing multi-stream video and audio? Congratulations for your work. Thank you." And I'm
Holy
going to
shit.
hell.
Pedro actually got an accent right. What the fuck?
I'm going to hell for this one.
All I'm thinking is, the Eiffel Tower looks very nice. I honestly don't know what the fuck all you're asking, man. I've read that until my brain bled.
But yeah, basically what it wants to create is a TV channel. Imagine a TV channel like the olden times,
Imagine
but stream it to the internet and do the video switching, like have a news show bit, like switch between different cameras and switch between different programs. Like different videos, have multiple video streams and multiple audio
Here's
streams.
the thing, I'll get back to you next week. There is an open source project built just for that. But I mean, it does
Yes,
require physical fucking cameras. This is not something
Yeah.
you're going to
yeah,
install on Pedro's calculator.
that was brought up in chat realm, wasn't it? In the forums.
I don't know if it was there. This is not the one that you might be thinking of. This is another one I know about that has been used. I looked at it, but you're talking about getting some black magic hardware. Giggity, also racist. Yeah, look into that. I'll write you back with that now that P-Man has unfucked whatever that was.
That's at least what I gathered.
Sandy,
from
what did you take with it?
He doesn't know, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't.
He's
On that
Canadian
bombshell.
and not a Jew, so yeah.
And on that bombshell, cue the music. You can always find us live at somewhere around 9:30 Eastern Moon Time. That's where we do this live. Kick us a few quid if you like this. We try to stay up at least 4 hours, give you a bit of entertainment. It would help. You know, a little bit of change. You can't kick us any, wet stinkies or anything like that. Spread the words. Tell your friends. Tell a
Amazon
cat.
affiliate link.
That's brilliant. Buy some things from Schnappy because he doesn't kill elephants. I'm Vin Stone. You can always find me at Vin Stone plus Vin Stone on the G pluses.
I am Jordan Spung. You can find me at The Burning Pool on Twitter or at Plus Jordan Spung on Google Plus.
And I am Pedro Mateus. You can find me at and accounted for with a U on Twitter or plus Pedro Mateus on Google Plus.
And I'm Sandy Martin.
Apparently had a stroke.
Yes. At Ultimagus on Twitter and plus Sandy Martin on the G pluses.
And remember, at the end of the day, beautiful party people, zombie demon hordes of the internet, there's nothing wrong with a little Hellen killer.
Helen Killen.
Helen
Killen.
Helen Killer. I like it better. Helen Killer.
I don't know. I mean, I'm
She
just
can't
surprised.
hear your screams.
Helen, she was able to hide from the Nazis for so long, man.
Hey man, everyone that showed up out of the door should just pop the cap in its ass.